It's 5 minutes with me.
A few years ago, my church had a capital campaign. It wasn't sexy, but it was needed. Several years earlier, the church's landlord informed us that we could move or buy the place as they had plans to level it and sell it to a condo developer. We stretched and believed and gave, and somehow by God's grace, we bought the property. Then, a handful of years later, the place was sort of falling apart and needed major infrastructure improvements that went way beyond our budget. So the church asked people to pray, God, what step of faith do you want me to take? I was at a leadership meeting about this campaign, and one of our pastors shared about the 3 steps he and his wife were taking as they considered the commitment that they would make. He outlined 3 steps. 1, what might we be able to do? 2, what can we add as a sacrificial stretch goal? And 3, what portion can we add as a step of faith? A few days later, I was sitting in a room of about 50 North American leaders of youth ministry organizations, and as I looked around the room, I was discouraged by how undiverse the group was. I noticed that it was almost exclusively white and almost exclusively male. I also noticed that it was almost exclusively old. I thought to myself, how is this group of old white men, myself very much included, holding on to control of our ministries and getting in the way of younger leaders and women and people of color? And how could we change that? How can I change that? In that moment, whether it was a prompting from the Holy Spirit or a result of the cheesecake I'd just devoured, that 3-step giving approach came to mind, and I quickly wrote it down on a pad of paper. As I reflected, I gave myself a mental pat on the back, acknowledging that I'm already attempting in some ways to give platform, opportunity, and voice to youth ministry leaders who aren't old and white and male. That's the first bit. What might I be able to do? But when I looked at my scribbled notes, I was challenged by the other 2 bits. What might I be able to do as a stretch goal? And what can I do on top of that as a step of faith? I'm seeing that this process could be helpful in more contexts than capital campaigns, as was clear to me and from my application on the issue of getting out of the way and making room for non-old white male youth ministry leadership in my sphere of influence. My aha, this is an opportunity to grow in faith in any area of my life. This is an approach to growing in faith in the practice of youth ministry. I'm thinking now of a 13-year-old guy in my small group. Let's call him Nate. Honestly, the guy is a challenge. He's not intentionally destructive or disruptive, but his attention span and immaturity and constant need to say whatever is on his mind make him exasperating when our small group is trying to have a conversation about pretty much anything. What might I be able to do about Nate? Well, so far I'm trying to be patient. I'm disciplining myself not to shame him or make him feel anything close to rejection. I'm making sure the other guys in the group don't make fun of him. All of that is my reasonable and important response. What more could I do as a sacrificial stretch? Well, I've started spending some one-on-one time with Nate. I need to build a relationship with him outside of the group. I need to pursue him. And then, for the increase of my own faith, and hopefully Nate's welfare also, what can I add as a step of faith? In order for this to have teeth, my action has to be beyond my ability, beyond my normal practices, beyond my desires. This extra portion needs to be action that will reveal God rather than revealing Marko. This third portion takes me past the limits of my own imagination and competency and resources. Honestly, I don't have an answer for it yet in this situation, but I'm praying about it, asking God to show me that step or steps of faith and to give me the courage to act. So where do you need more faith in your youth ministry? Start by considering your rational, measured contribution. Add to that a stretch goal. And then on top of all that, consider the step of faith that takes you beyond yourself into only God territory.
Youth Cartel Podcast Network.